Imagine dedicating your whole life to building something, only for your own child to look you in the eye and say, "You're no longer needed." That's what happened to me. I built a company from nothing, poured every dream, every sleepless night, every ounce of love into it. And one day, my daughter, the person I built it for, fired me. But life has a funny way of turning the tables, because 2 years later, I became her boss. I still remember the exact sound of the air conditioner humming above my head when it happened. A low, almost indifferent noise that filled the silence right after my daughter said the words that would change everything. "Mama, I think it's time you stepped down." For a few seconds, I thought I had misheard her. We were sitting in the conference room of Bright Future Marketing, the company I had helped her build from the ground up. My daughter, Amelia, sat across from me in her designer suit, her hair pulled into the same tight bun she used to wear to high school debates, only now it was part of her corporate armor. Behind her were 2 members of the board, both men in their 30s who had joined us only a year ago, both looking everywhere except at me. I had started this business 12 years earlier with nothing but a stack of used laptops, an old van, and a vision to help small local shops advertise online. I named it Bright Future after Amelia because she was the future I had always worked for. I never imagined that one day my own daughter would be sitting across from me, using that same company name as a weapon to push me out of it. "You mean resign?" I asked quietly, hoping there was a misunderstanding. Amelia shifted in her seat. "Not exactly resign, Mama. We just think your traditional way of doing things doesn't fit where the company's heading." Her words hit harder than I could describe. Traditional way of doing things. I had built this company when social media marketing wasn't even a term people used. I had gone door to door convincing bakeries, barbershops, and thrift stores that having a Facebook page could change their future. I had mortgaged our house to buy the first office printer. And now my daughter, the same little girl who used to do her homework in the corner of that office while I typed proposals late into the night, was telling me I didn't belong anymore. When I got home that night, the house felt bigger and emptier than usual. The framed photographs on the wall seemed to look at me differently, as if they too were questioning how everything had come to this. There was one photo I couldn't stop staring at, Amelia at 12 years old, standing beside me at the ribbon-cutting ceremony of our first office. She had been so proud that day. She told everyone, "My mama owns a company." Her smile was wide, her arms wrapped around me like she never wanted to let go. I held that same picture in my hand now and tried to understand how that little girl had turned into the woman who had just fired me. I sat in my old rocking chair and thought about all the nights I stayed up designing campaigns while Amelia slept beside me on the couch. I thought about how, after her father passed away, I promised myself she would never struggle the way I did. Every dollar I earned went to her education, her future. I didn't buy myself new clothes for years just so I could afford her business degree. And when she graduated, I gave her the keys to the company. "This is yours now," I told her. "Make it something even greater." I meant it from the bottom of my heart. I didn't know that in giving her ownership, I was also giving her the power to erase me from the story. The days that followed were a blur of confusion and heartbreak. I received an official email from Human Resources stating that my services were no longer required and that I would receive a small severance package in appreciation of past contributions. Past contributions. That phrase felt like a knife twisting deeper with every syllable. It was as if the years I spent cleaning the office myself, fixing printers, mentoring staff, and sacrificing weekends had all been reduced to a polite thank you note. The following week, I decided to stop by the office to collect the few personal things I had left there, a mug that said, "World's Best Mom," a framed quote that read, "Strong women build their own tables," and the little potted plant Amelia had given me when she was in college. As I entered the lobby, the receptionist, a young woman who had started only a few months ago, looked startled to see me. "Oh, Mrs. Brooks, I didn't know you'd be coming in." she said softly. Her voice trembled with the same unease that everyone seemed to have around me now. I gave her a kind smile. Don't worry, sweetheart. I'm just here to pick up a few things. I walked through the glass doors and felt like a ghost, drifting through what used to be my home. The office smelled different, colder, like too much perfume and not enough soul. My old desk had been cleared out. My nameplate was gone. Amelia's new assistant sat there now, typing rapidly, pretending not to notice me. I could feel the whispers in the air, the kind that follow a fallen queen after her crown has been taken away. That night, as I sat on my porch watching the Atlanta sky turn from pink to dark purple, I made myself a quiet promise. I wasn't going to beg my daughter to take me back. I wasn't going to fight for a place where I was no longer respected. But I also wasn't going to disappear into the background. I had built something from nothing once before, and I could do it again. Beneath all the pain, there was a small ember of pride still burning inside me. I was 58 years old, but I still had ideas, instincts, and experience that no young executive could buy. Maybe Amelia had forgotten where this company came from, but I hadn't. That night I opened my old laptop, the same one with a cracked corner and faded keyboard, and I started to write. Not an angry email, not a letter of complaint, but a plan. A plan for something new, something mine again. Because if my daughter thought firing me was the end of my story, she was about to learn that it was only the beginning. For the first few weeks after being fired, I felt like a ghost in my own life. I'd wake up at 6 a.m. out of habit, make a pot of coffee, and sit at the kitchen table staring at my planner, still half expecting to see meetings, deadlines, client calls. Instead, there was nothing but empty white space. At first, that silence was unbearable. I tried to fill it by cleaning the house, organizing drawers, relabeling old files. But deep down, I knew I wasn't meant to fade quietly into retirement just because my daughter had decided I was outdated. One morning, while scrolling aimlessly through local business news, I stumbled upon a small article about a group of minority-owned startups struggling to find affordable marketing support. They were exactly the kind of people I'd built bright future for real dreamers who just needed someone to believe in them. I don't know what came over me, but I opened a new document on my laptop and typed the words, "The Brooks Collective, Marketing with a Heart." The name made me smile. It sounded bold but warm, professional but human. For the first time in months, I felt that familiar spark flicker inside me again, the one that had pushed me through years of late nights and uphill battles. I brewed another cup of coffee, rolled up my sleeves, and started sketching out a plan that would remind everyone, including myself, exactly who I was. Building a new company at 58 wasn't easy. Banks weren't eager to give loans to a woman my age, even one with a proven track record. Every investor meeting came with polite smiles and condescending comments about enjoying retirement. But I faced worse. I sold my car to fund a small rented office downtown, barely 2 rooms and a flickering light, but it was mine. I painted the walls myself, hung up a corkboard, and taped a handwritten sign on the door. We help small voices get heard. My first client came by accident. A local bakery owner, Mrs. Jones, recognized me from my bright future days and asked if I could help her rebrand after losing customers during the pandemic. I charged her barely anything, but when her sales doubled within a month, word spread fast. Soon I was getting calls from local artists, mechanics, and thrift shop owners, people who couldn't afford big agencies but needed guidance. I hired 2 interns from the community college, both eager and full of ideas. We worked out of that tiny office, sharing one printer and an old coffee machine, but there was laughter in the air again. Every success, no matter how small, reminded me that experience never truly gets old, it just needs a place to breathe. One afternoon, about 6 months after I started the Brooks Collective, I attended a local entrepreneurship event to scout new clients. I had just finished giving a short talk about grassroots marketing when I noticed a familiar logo flashing on one of the sponsor banners, Bright Future Marketing. My heart skipped. And then I saw her. Amelia, standing on stage, confident as ever, giving a keynote speech about innovation and modern leadership. Our eyes met for the briefest second, and I could tell she hadn't expected to see me there. After her talk, she approached me with that careful smile people wear when they don't know whether to hug you or shake your hand. "Mama, I didn't know you'd be here," I smiled back. "You didn't think you were the only Brooks who knew how to build something, did you?" She laughed nervously, probably assuming my little agency was a hobby. But as we talked, several people approached to compliment me on my presentation. One even mentioned that they had switched from Bright Future to my agency for a campaign because they preferred my hands-on approach. I saw Amelia's expression falter for the first time, not out of anger, but confusion. I could see her thinking, how did she manage this? That moment wasn't about revenge for me. It was about quiet validation. The daughter who had thought her mother was obsolete was realizing that wisdom doesn't expire, it evolves. By the end of that year, the Brooks Collective had grown faster than I dared dream. We partnered with several nonprofit organizations, launched social campaigns for local schools, and even won a regional business award for community impact. The night of the award ceremony, as I stood on stage holding that crystal plaque under the bright lights, I thought of Amelia again, not with bitterness, but with pride. She had taught me something valuable through her rejection. That identity built entirely around someone else's approval is a fragile thing. I had spent decades living as Amelia's mother or the founder who stepped aside. Now, I was simply Clara Brooks, CEO of a company I built with my own two hands again. But fate, as I would soon learn, wasn't done writing our story. Because sometimes life has a way of circling back to teach both sides what humility really means. And soon, my daughter, the same one who had fired me, would find herself sitting across from me once more. Only this time, the power dynamic would be very different. It happened almost exactly 2 years after the day Amelia fired me. By then, the Brooks Collective had become something far beyond my original dream, a respected agency, known for ethical marketing and community impact. We weren't the biggest, but we were trusted, and in business, that's gold. I had 14 employees now, a proper office space in Midtown Atlanta, and a list of loyal clients who believed in our message. Good business begins with good people. One rainy Thursday morning, while I was reviewing campaign data with my new project manager, my assistant rushed in holding a folder. "Mrs. Brooks," she said softly, "Bright Future just requested a meeting. They want to discuss a potential collaboration." I froze. For a moment, I thought I'd misheard her. But no, there it was, my old company's name printed neatly at the top of the letterhead. Apparently, Bright Future had lost 2 major accounts after a string of failed campaigns. Their new investors were demanding results, and their internal team wasn't delivering. I felt a strange mix of sadness and irony. The company I built with love and was pushed out of was now coming to me for help. My assistant looked nervous, waiting for my answer. "Set up the meeting," I said calmly, though my hands trembled slightly under the table. The universe has a sense of humor, and apparently it wanted me to witness it firsthand. The following Monday, Amelia walked into my office for the first time in years. She looked polished as ever, but there was something different about her, a hint of weariness behind her eyes. I stood to greet her, extending my hand. "Amelia," I said warmly, "it's been a while." She hesitated for a second, then shook it. Mrs. Brooks, she corrected awkwardly, as if professionalism could mask the history between us. Behind her stood 2 Bright Future executives, none of whom had the faintest clue about our past. We sat down in a conference room, and for a moment, it felt like déjà vu, except this time I was the one sitting at the head of the table. Amelia began her presentation, explaining that Bright Future wanted to partner with the Brooks Collective for a large-scale rebranding campaign aimed at rebuilding their public trust. She spoke with her usual confidence, but her tone softened whenever she looked at me. We believe your agency's reputation for authenticity could really help reposition us in the market, she said. I listened carefully, letting her finish. Then I leaned forward, meeting her gaze. It's interesting, I said gently, how life brings us full circle. The same experience that once made me too traditional is now what you need most. The room fell silent. Her colleagues exchanged awkward glances, sensing there was more to this conversation than business. After the meeting, Amelia asked if we could talk privately. We stepped out to the balcony overlooking Peachtree Street, where the rain had stopped but the pavement still glistened. For a moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, she sighed. Mama, I don't even know where to start. I stayed quiet, giving her space. I thought I was doing the right thing, she continued. I wanted to modernize the company, make it mine. But I didn't realize how much of its soul came from you. Her voice cracked. And for the first time in years, I saw not the CEO, but the little girl who used to sit on my office floor drawing logos in crayon. When things started falling apart, she said, I kept thinking about how you used to run things, the way clients trusted you, the way people worked harder because they loved you. I tried to copy that, but it's not something you can fake. Tears welled in her eyes. I'm sorry for how I treated you. I was proud. I thought success meant doing everything differently from you. I felt the sting of old wounds softening. I reached out and took her hand. We all learn the hard way, baby, I said quietly. But I'm proud of you for coming here today. That takes strength. She squeezed my hand back, her shoulders shaking as she cried. In that moment, the years of resentment melted into something else, not complete forgiveness yet, but understanding. We both realized that love doesn't vanish just because pride gets in the way. It waits, quietly, patiently, until you're ready to find it again. In the weeks that followed, the Brooks Collective officially partnered with Bright Future. Under my leadership, our teams worked side by side, and for the first time, Amelia and I functioned not as rivals but as equals. She listened more, trusted more, and when she didn't know something, she wasn't afraid to ask. I watched her grow into the kind of leader I had always hoped she'd become, one who leads with heart, not ego. And somewhere along the way, the distance between us disappeared. One Friday afternoon, after we successfully launched Bright Future's new campaign, Amelia walked into my office holding a bouquet of lilies, my favorite. I have news, she said, smiling nervously. The board just approved me to step down as CEO. And they voted to appoint you as interim chief executive for the next year. I stared at her in disbelief. Me? She nodded. You built this company. You deserve to bring it back home. My eyes filled with tears. I didn't even try to hide. I stood, walked around the desk, and hugged her tightly. You don't know how proud I am of you, I whispered. She smiled against my shoulder. I learned from the best. That night, as I walked out of the office that once rejected me, I looked up at the glowing sign that read Bright Future Marketing. For the first time in a long time, it truly lived up to its name, not because of business success, but because a mother and daughter had found their way back to each other. Sometimes, life teaches its hardest lessons through heartbreak. But when you rise again, not out of revenge, but out of purpose, you don't just rebuild what was lost. You build something stronger. And that's exactly what I did.